Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Assalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome, my dear brothers and sisters, to the monthly Shariah webinar series entitled Enhancing Value Proposition of Islamic Banking and Takaful through Sharia Contract Framework, presented by today Professor Datin Dr. Rusni Hassan. And this webinar is organized by Bank Rakyat, INCEIF University, IIUM Malaysia, and Derasat for research and consulting in Islamic banking. Before that, my name is Izzuddin. It is a pleasure, as always, to be your MC for this webinar series. And for your information, this is our 11th series for the year. And inshallah, we hope to continue with more going into 2025, inshallah. As mentioned, our topic today is enhancing value proposition of Islamic banking and Takaful through Sharia contract framework. And to present this topic, we have Professor Datin Dr. Rusni Hassan. She is the Dean of the IIUM Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance over at the International Islamic University of Malaysia. Now, a bit of housekeeping. Prof will present for, I believe, around 40 minutes or so, inshallah. And then we will open the floor for Q&A. But in the meantime, for anyone who has any questions, please do submit your questions in the Q&A window below. And then we will try our best within the allocated time to pose the questions to Prof, inshallah. So without any further ado, I will pass the floor on to Professor Datin Dr. Rusni Hassan. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Encik Izzuddin. It's always good to hear your cheerful, if I were to say, voice and whatnot. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for having me this afternoon lunch session to share a very I don't think it's heavy topic today that I'm sharing. But it's more on the sharing my thought or what is the content on the Sharia contract framework that have been issued by Bank Negara in the form of discussion paper, asking or requesting the feedback from the industry, basically on this, what we call it, matter. So I read through, I think the basis or the spirit of the sharing is more on looking into what we call it, what is the content and intention of the discussion paper. And then, of course, there are certain questions that Bank Negara expect us to come back to them in terms of giving the feedback before this discussion paper become exposure draft and later on become a PD, inshallah. Yeah. So I will start off basically. Are we good as of now? Izzuddin, can you see me?
Yes, yes. Loud and clear.
Okay. So I will continue then. Now, this is basically the overview or what is the introduction, the Sharia Contract Framework discussion paper that Bank Negara have issued on 11th of November and waiting for the response from industry players in particular. And basically, we are looking at the exercise of regulator or Bank Negara in terms of streamlining the contract or the Sharia contract policy documents. Yeah, everyone know there are 14 Sharia contract policy documents that have been issued by Bank Negara Malaysia. And we are using that. We are using this particular PD for our operation in particular as guidance for our what we call it operation, either in the product structuring, compliance, and so on and so forth. So basically, this is what stated actually. This discussion paper or this Sharia contract framework is part of the exercise that what we call it is a regular exercise by the regulator to ensure the what we call it usability of the policy documents. And everyone know that policy papers is regularly reviewed by Bank Negara to ensure that it is streamlined or it is aligned to the development and then the need of the industry. Yeah. So basically, this is what stated. We are looking at the reformation, so-called reforming Sharia-based financial policy document. And I believe that everyone know with the issuance of the policy document on Sharia contracts, which is aligned to ISA, and thus we are using it as a main reference for our operation in the Islamic Bank. In terms of applicability, I believe that everyone know that it is applicable to all regulators under Bank Negara. Now, these are the 5, what we call it, objectives and scope of the DP or discussion paper. The first one is value proposition. And in this paper, if everyone read through, basically, we acknowledge that we are doing good, but how can we do better? I think that is a simple, straightforward point that been deliberated in this enhancing value proposition. So you may notice that when what we call it, the wording used is that to enhance. We have that already, but how can we do better? Particularly what we call it in promoting social economic development of the country. How can we do better? How can the Sharia contracts can further be enhanced to ensure that it is aligned with that objective of socio-economic development of the country? So number 2 is that streamlining the design. Because again, we are talking about all the 14 policy documents, and then you may notice that there are some differences between the 14 documents. So far, and then therefore, Bank Negara is in the, the purpose of its DP is that to streamline and then, to combine and consolidate basically, on this 14 Sharia contract, and then put it into one under the Sharia contract framework. I believe that all of us are fully aware that many of the, what we call it, para in different sets or different policy documents actually are about the same. Let's say offer and acceptance, contracting parties and whatnot. So this is basically the area that will be looking on by the review in this review exercise, and then to consolidate the similar general requirement of each of the contract, and to put a separate or a dedicated or specific part for the dedicated Sharia contract, which are distinguished from one another. Number 3 is, of course, compliance. We are good already in terms of compliance, but how can we do better again? And thus the wording that strengthening Sharia compliance. I believe that we are there already in terms of Sharia compliance. However, we cannot deny the fact that there are some challenges and areas of which we can, what we call it, do better, inshallah. And in this part on strengthening of Sharia compliance, we can see, in fact, throughout the policy document, there's a lot of highlight as regards to the maqasid al-Sharia. So maqasid Sharia is basically, throughout, and then the spirit of this DP will be the overarching principles. And then I believe that this is not something new. We know about that already. It's just that how can we replicate and evidence it in terms of the operation, using or what we call it via the Sharia contract. And by virtue of this review and exercise and or enhancement in the policy document or in this framework, then we are hoping that there will be a lot of innovation that can be nurtured or that can be created out of this what we call it exercise. And last but not least is the implementation process, of which in this DP also stated about the phase implementation or stages implementation. And then for the
sorry, Prof.
Yes.
Sorry, Prof. Sorry to cut you. Are you presenting a slide or?
Yes.
We can't see
you
your
see?
screen, huh? Can you?
Okay.
Sorry, I baru perasan. Apologize for that.
Okay, let me try again. I have shared. This one. Can you see?
Yes, now can see.
Yeah. Yes.
Let me put on. Okay, you can see this?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry for that. Yeah, I thought it's already shared. Okay, so this is basically the objective and scope. Okay, now these are the key themes of the DP. There are 5 key themes. One is value proposition of Shariah contract. Number 2 is on the framework design, how it looks like later on when it become the policy document. Number 3 is that on the Shariah requirement, as mentioned earlier, consolidating of a general, or in this policy document, in this DP, the word used is that universal Shariah requirement that to be consolidated in one part, and then moving forward afterward, there will be another dedicated part or another part which is specifically addressed or aligned to the specific contract. And number 4 is on the operational requirement. And last but not least is the last part is on the strategy as well as the timeline for the implementation. Now, I start off with number 1, that is on the value proposition. Now, I start off with very, what we call it, this diagram, which I believe we are familiar with. Yeah? This diagram first was introduced by Bank Negara in 2019, what we call it, Bank Negara report, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah? 2019 Bank Negara report, but the diagram slightly different. Yeah? But it appears again in our financial sector blueprint 2022-2026. But within using this particular diagram of house and then the pillars and whatnot. Yeah, but the content is the same. Now, this is actually what we or the vision of the economy, okay, of the country, pioneered by the Islamic finance. So we need to basically support the industry growth and whatnot, okay, taking into consideration of the fundamentals of Islamic finance, Shariah compliance, of course, being the basis of everything that we do. So what compliance that we need to be doing? And you may notice the second level here is the principles of fiqh al-mu'amalat. Okay, on profit, risk, money is as a medium of exchange, wealth creation, transfer on circulation of wealth, and of course, transparency and traceability. This is the what we call it context in fiqh mu'amalat. Now, and then we are operating using these fundamentals. When we assess our Shariah compliance, these are the main component of Shariah compliance that we look at. Yeah? Translated into, for example, profit, maybe, can be in the form of our pricing and so on and so forth. Yeah? We're not going to do that detail, basically. Yeah. Now, why we are doing this? Okay, ultimately, we are guided by fairness and attainment of excellence, or ihsan. Yeah. So ihsan shall always be part of our value whenever we do the transaction, whenever we do our products, whenever we serve our clients, customers, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, the overarching or the higher limit or the ultimate is that, of course, prevention of harm and attainment of benefits. Or in another perspective, we can say that this is what we would like to achieve through the maqasid. Yeah? So these are the value proposition overall that we would like to see in this, what we call it, Islamic banking and finance. And then the financial system, Islamic financial system, yeah, and it must support whatever that we do is to support the economic growth, okay, balanced, progressive, sustainable, and inclusive. These are a very, very important keywords. Balance, talking about shared prosperity. Progressive, that whatever that we do must always be, progressively, what we call it, considered and whatnot. Okay, and we are looking at a lot of innovation to be there. and of course sustainable from the financial sustainability, as well as in terms of our support for the sustainability agenda, ESG should be there, and taking into consideration that if we are doing good, make sure that everyone surrounding you are also included together in our journey. Yeah, so this is what we want to see moving forward of the whole Islamic financial system to be, inshallah. I think this is part of the purpose or the bigger objective of the revision or this Shariah contract framework, DP. Yeah. Now, then here I'm talking. This is actually the problem statement, if I were to say, because at this point of time, there's many conversation as regards to over concentration, and therefore less, very minimum in terms of product innovation. And the third thing is that the question that always come into our mind, that are we really good in terms of achieving maqasid al-Shariah? So we are not saying that we are not doing that. We are doing it, but can we do better in terms of achieving maqasid al-Shariah? So you may notice that many Bank Negara recent, or what we call it Bank Negara document, talking a lot on the maqasid al-Shariah. Okay, but we are, okay, these are basically our reality check, or what is we are having now. You may agree, you may disagree on this, but we are looking into the general, what we call it, or helicopter view in terms of our banking and finance. Yeah. Now, we are looking into moving forward is that the opportunity in front of us is to have more diverse application of the Shariah contract, okay, and therefore to be innovative. Okay, to be innovative, using more Shariah contract, become more competitive, and of course we need to utilize whatever good value that we have had in this that we are having in the industry. Of course, in this context of DP, talking or highlight a lot in terms of VBI, because VBI is already there, is what we call it recommendation and policy that we need to be following as well, and then all the strategy. So use that as one of the what we call it area that for us to align. But at the same time, of course, we need to be looking at the competitiveness of the product, and then how can we become more effective in terms of meeting the consumer needs and so on. Yeah. So the spirit is that don't be too stringent, or don't be too rigid in terms of applying the Shariah contract. We are looking for more what we call it environment whereby this Shariah contract is used in the right way, and then it shouldn't be something that hinder the product innovation. Yeah. So we'll be looking more of the financial inclusion, particularly underserved and unserved market. Yeah. Okay. So what we need to do basically is looking into the economic welfare or socio-economic welfare. How? By aligning the maqasid al-Shariah. We have maqasid al-Shariah, which is a very powerful tool in Shariah. Okay. So now use maqasid al-Shariah as the tool for us to become better or to become more competitive. So we are looking at two aspects. Number one is, of course, on the maslahah and avoiding or preventing harm and mafsadah. But also another point here is that the DP is actually expectation is for us to reflect back again to our maqasid al-aqad. Every akad or every Shariah contract, there is meant for specific purpose or different purpose. But the way most of industry, as I did mention, to be fair, that generally we are looking at the, the behavior of this, what we call it, product or Shariah contract seems to be quite, what we call it stereotype. So we would like to have more or much more innovative, products. And then, of course, we need to be looking at the maqasid akad as well. And then all this mechanism at the end of the day is to for economic well-being of the country and community. Now, diversification opportunities is that we would like to look into, we are looking for potential for more innovative product, taking not really look at or not much focusing or too much focus on equity base, but also debt based, equity based, but we are looking as well as regards to the social finance. I believe that we are doing that already, but how can we do better? The question and the purpose is that how can we do better? Okay. And therefore, we would be able to, what we call it, present ourselves better for our market, underserved markets particularly. And then, of course, we will be able to advance financial inclusivity. So we bring everyone in to be together with us. How to do it? The DP and content of this, what we call it, policy document, talking about integrating VBI, VBIAF, as well as VBIT, to be adopted, to become the, what we call it, the point of reference whenever we align or whenever we look into, or what we call it, develop our product structures and whatnot. Yeah. So VBI will be our main reference. VBI will be the guidance document for all of us in terms of moving forward for the better innovative product development that is inclusive for everyone. Of course, not to what we call it, forgetting the what we call it, climate change and so on, the sustainability agenda, because it is part of the Maqasid al-Shariah. Now, this is the illustration that have been provided here. Basically, here is the assessment. The assessment that we are looking at in terms of the way how the market or the general market, what we call it, approach. Yeah. So we would like to see that, you know, how can we do better? Of course, you know, for example, issue on SMEs, MSMEs, for example. Now, at this point of time, we are using Tawarruk. How can we do better? Because there could be issues. In fact, it's not could be, but the issues on the pricing and whatnot. So maybe the suggestion here is that to diversify the Shariah contract, not to be purely on Tawarruk, but also to add the blended finance. Yeah? So to include Wakaf, Zakat, and Sadaqah. Some of the industry players already doing that. So maybe moving forward, we can do better. And then how to blend the credit or debt-based with together with the Mudarabah Musyarakah, PLS, and so on and so forth. We are looking forward for better or more robust, if I were to say, you know, products and whatnot under investment account. Yeah, I'm fully aware because I'm in the bank. We understand that there are challenges for our investment account, but hopefully the spirit here for this is that for us to, you know, try as much as possible. How can we do better in terms of our IA? The Takaful also, we are looking at our product. Then how can we use, you know, the broader ta'awun concept to what we call it, to be incorporated in our products, as well as, you know, the way how we do Takaful. Yeah. So here we are. So those are the example. For example, we are looking to about surplus. Yeah. How can we use it to subsidize the Takaful price and whatnot? And Wakaf Takaful is something that have been discussed long time, but not properly, if I were to say, materialized yet. There was some attempt that have been made by several operators, TOs, but we would like to see more of that, inshallah. Yeah? So this is, again, we are talking about blended, and then we need to collaborate with other non-banking and financial institutions, and also working with the Zakat and Wakaf authorities, for example. This is the environment that we would like to have, okay? Now, the second part is the framework design, okay? So this is the point that, you know, been mentioned about 14 separate policy documents on Shariah contract. And of course, we acknowledge, I think this is, you ask every one of us, of course, is good benefit that we can get guidance from the PD documents, from the 14 Shariah document. But, you know, it's a bit complex, particularly, you know, you have to refer to different, yeah? So you need to refer, you want to do, because of course we are, what we call it, having multiple contracts. So you need to refer to different, what we call it, PD documents. So it's a bit complex, it's a bit fragmented. And, you know, we are not saying that it cannot be done. We have been doing it, but it's a bit challenging there. So we are, what we call it, hoping that by this exercise, then it will be better, inshallah. It'll be more better and seamless, inshallah. So there will be part of universal Shariah contract whereby all the Shariah requirements that is applicable across all contracts, yeah, offer and acceptance, as I did mention, contracting party subject matter is always there, is the same. And the part B, the second part will be specific on the individual Shariah contract. Mudarabah, musyarakah, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So we will be seeing that basically the proposed framework part is universal, and then the second part will be dedicated for different type of contract. So hopefully by having this, it can be easy in terms of reference. Yeah. Okay. You don't need to have to cite many PD and whatnot. Yeah. But rather than one only, then okay. Now, other than that, okay, what we call it, in this DP, also, what we call it, there is a proposal for the another part that is implementation guide. This is to complement the application of the framework. Yeah. So, so means that in that framework, it consists of just now on the Shariah contract will be part A and part B just now. And in addition to that, there will be implementation guide in terms of addressing, for example, the operational aspects and so on and so forth. Yeah. Okay. So this is the how it will be designed. Okay. So again, we are talking about unified framework of Shariah contract. There will be implementation guide to complement the practice. Okay. To provide how, you know, the implementation and operationalization of the Shariah contracts. Yeah? And number 3 is that, you know, there must be also some part whereby the way how you operationalize, and there will be another part of assessment for us to do actually. How are we incorporating the VBI or via BIT? Yeah, in that particular product structures based on the contracts that you have. Yeah, so there will be unified, there will be implementation guide in terms of how to implement it. But the next component that there will be, what we call it, the expectation is that your VBI. What is the value and VBI value of, you know, that you are doing in every single contract or products that you are having. Yeah. So moving forward, you know, looking into this, I would expect that your analysis would be having additional column that is alignment to your VBI. Okay. Now, how to pilot the implementation? Okay. And of course, how to pilot the implementation going through, okay, is stated clearly in this year. I think this is something that we also know, no compromise on Shariah compliant. In whatever that we do, even though we want to be innovative, even though we want to offer product that is digital, or it is meant, or the product must be less complex, for example, because we are addressing underserved and unserved. But then again, the fundamentals must always be there. That is Shariah compliant. So Shariah compliant is no compromise. It must be there. Number 2, then we need to be practical and realistic. What are the challenge? What are the industry? What we look at flavor and whatnot. Yeah. So basically, we are looking at the industry challenge here. Then what we call it, you know, what are the way how we do things. Okay. So this is something that we need to be taking care of. And the DP mentioned that there will be a framework. The framework that to be developed or to be introduced have this component or the element whereby this challenge that consistently, what we call it, change and whatnot, will be properly advised here, yeah, or properly addressed here in this framework. How it would be later on, we have yet to see, yeah. So this would be what we call it, the second point. So we need to take into the consideration of the market and then industry. And last but not least is whereby, of course, it will not, the expectation of Bank Negara is that it will not be, one off, if I were to say, or immediately will be imposed, but rather than it will be taken into consideration of phase implementation. Will not be immediately, but rather than face to face. But the fact that it must be, however, what we call it, growing and progressing. Okay. Now, then on that point, the DP also mentioned about, implementation may cause certain, what we call it, challenge. Are we ready for the implementation, particularly when we talk about aligning to Maqasid al-Shariah? Now, you may say, even me, myself, said that, what kind of Maqasid Shariah that we are following? Yeah. Now, we do have Securities Commission Maqasid al-Shariah, for example, right? But is it applicable to us? Or we not? Okay, number one. Number two is that, should Bank Negara come up with different type of Maqasid guidance for us? That one, yeah. So these are the questions that come to our mind. Number three, some of the bank already, or Takaful operator already internally come up with some guidance in terms of Maqasid, VBI and whatnot. Yeah. But not everyone are doing that already. So we can see that industry need to be ready by that, and that it need a lot of, I would say, commitment, and then what we call it, focus in terms of doing what, towards achieving the Maqasid al-Shariah. Yeah. And of course, we are quite comfortable with what we are doing now. Are we then ready to challenge ourselves for another way of doing what we call it, business, or another type of contract? As what we are, everyone know that we have been talking about alternative to Tabarruk, long time, yeah, several years, for example. But until now, there is no solid, what we call it, solution to it. Some may have found the solution, the other, however, still searching for it. Yeah, and then maybe this is a bit sad, but some may have yet to even discuss at their level on what the alternative that the institution should be doing. Yeah, so this is the real scenario of what happened. Some banks are done it already. One in the process, the second group of the, what we call it, in the process. The other one, however, are still not ready. We are not, because we have other priorities and whatnot. So that is the real, what we call it, challenge here. Eh? And then to do that, of course, with this framework also, there will be what we call it, benefits and then advantage and disadvantage. Some industry like the position now, because they provide you some guidance very clear and whatnot. The other, a bit advanced institution saying that, that existing or present approach with 14 policy document is very rigid. So we are hoping that, with the new framework, it simplified the navigation requirements, of course, will be better. Simply said that you only code one PD rather than you need to choose out of 14 which one is to be applicable for you. But this would be the way better. But as mentioned earlier, some banks appreciate the rigid guidance or rigid, what we call it, way, if I were to use such a words. The other, however, welcome the simplified navigation. Now, because if it is simplified,
alert from control notifications, microphone.
Okay. It needs to be your level of interpretation, your level, the ability to interpret the requirement must be strong from the bank side. Yeah? Of course, we are looking at clarity across all contracts. I'm not going to what we call it, look into the question. There are certain questions that they need to be that will be discussed. I'm going to skip this because we don't have time. I have only a few minutes to go. Now, the third part is alignment on Shariah requirement. So, and then there are two aspects here. We are talking about alignment with the Shariah objective. We are talking about two Shariah objectives here, maqasid ammah or maqasid al-Shariah generally, particularly as regard to hifzul mal, because that is understandable. But another type of maqasid that been highlighted in this, or is like highlighted in this policy in this DP, is that maqasid khassah, particularly to maqasid al-aqd. So we need to understand the very nature of each of the contract, the purpose, okay? And then when we adopt that particular akad, that particular contract, it must be aligned to the very nature or the very objective itself. Yeah, because I believe that we doesn't want, for example, you start off with ijarah, but when you develop the product structure and whatnot, the ijarah element is diluted and it become, a different contract. So I think that is the spirit here. So we need to align with the objective of course, the higher objective of Shariah, maslahah and then raf'ul mafsadah. But other than that, at the we need to be looking at each of the objective of the Shariah contract itself. Yeah. Okay. And therefore, it is also aligned when we talk about Shariah contract. What are we using? I mean, that we're using tawarruk. So we are looking at this on this point. We would like the product to be aligned, okay, with the nature of the akad itself. Tawarruk is meant for liquidity. So let's use for liquidity. Okay, the example used here, wakalah. In this DP, talking about wakalah. If wakalah, then it must be, meant for agency. So at the end, we doesn't want to see it that is this very nature of the akad is diluted at the end. We understand that because of the system, because of financial intermediation. But to me, I take it positive. I take it in a sense that maybe it's something for us to be thinking, out of the box, rather than doing all whatever people that we are quite comfortable of doing. How can we do better? So that is what the spirit of this DP. So this is what we call it in part A, for example, that to ensure that operational practices are in harmony with the objective of the Shariah. So what is proposed in this DP is that 4 principles will be incorporated: profit, then wealth creation, wealth distribution, and circulation to be in that component. I mean that when we do the evaluation, of course, we are talking about transparency. So means that, we need to be very transparent the way how we ensure our product, what we call it, services. Yeah. And then, of course, fairness and excellence means that we need to have, what is our value proposition? What are our additional value proposition? We need to be excellent whenever we product. What are your key niche value proposition that you may find in your respective bank? Yeah, so I think that would be, or certain product, for example. So because fairness may be something that across the board, we know about it already, but we would like to see more of what is your unique features or positive unique features that you can offer. Okay, I think that is, something that we need to ponder and then be doing it. Yeah. So basically, this is an example on our evaluation, in terms of when we develop our Shariah contract, for example, products and whatnot, then analysis should always be on, at least on the governance structure is, of course, we are quite familiar with that. Okay, evaluation on the governance, disclosure, and market conduct. Of course, this is not something new. Okay, this is something that we are already there, but but we can say that the level of implementation and adoption varies from one institution to the other, and then we want to see better adoption, okay, in the all what we call it IFI. Okay, so the categorization of the Shariah requirement will be, as mentioned earlier, universal Shariah contract, specific Shariah requirement, and then will be what we call it added in terms of the Shariah guidance. Yeah, okay. Operationalizing maqasid is something is very, very challenging. Yeah, so how can we do it? And then the DP mentioned clearly this could be the challenge that we may face, but we cannot what we call it put it aside, because that always the way how we do better. So we need to operationalize the maqasid as Shariah. Yeah, I believe that some of you maybe who have been in my session earlier when we talk about VBI, even darurah and hajat and whatnot, I always emphasize that at the end of the day, your analysis or your product development and whatnot must take into consideration of the maqasid Shariah. Okay, and what we call it Shariah contract in terms of Shariah non-compliant, operational and whatnot, you know, is something that is very complex, something that we need to be observing. Definitely no compromise in terms of the what we call it Shariah compliance. Yeah? Now, but if we manage to do it right, yeah, we will be able to have a better or enhanced Islamic finance that promote maqasid Shariah, that promote transparency, fairness at the end of the day, you know, our social economic development of the community as a whole. And this would be something great for our country's economy and financial system. We are looking into that. And then we are not talking about us only, but we are talking about the value proposition that we can showcase not only to the Islamic finance, the public and whatnot, but also the value that we can showcase to the conventional finance. Yeah, that we are, you know, in terms of our financial intermediations is the same. We can't avoid that. Yeah, but what are our niche things? Yeah, I think that's the point of question or the point of concern or moving forward, the spirit of this, what we call it, exercise. Yeah, these are the question again. You know, I will skip this. I will finish up. The last but not least, you know, there will be another one before the last is on the operational requirement. So what we call it, the operational requirement will be again look at to ensure that the application of Shariah contracts is better, is to be done in a better manner. And of course, the regulatory concerns, you know, the additional regulatory, what we call it, policies, principles and whatnot will be taken care, will be included in this review. And of course, definitely we are talking about, you know, to promote proportionate operational practices tailored to the specific risks of the Shariah contract itself. Yeah? So the Shariah contract, again, simply put that, you know, because different Shariah contract have a different risk profile. Yeah? And then it should be that way. Yep. Okay. So how they do it? Of course, by streamline the requirements. What are the common operational requirements that applicable across the Shariah contract? And of course, certain operational requirements specific to the certain Shariah contract. So actually it follows the similar, what we call it, categorization of the Shariah contract. Operational requirement also will follow suit. One is universal or other quite general, the common one, and another portion will be more specific. Okay, and this is the illustration, for example, yeah, the current operational requirement, which is a bit, you know, unit to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then universal operational requirement will be general, but specifically it will be addressed in different parts. Yeah, so we have the suggestion, the proposed framework will be universal operational requirement, specific, and followed by operational guidance, following or to be consistent with the first part on the Shariah requirement just now. Okay, of course, acknowledging in terms of the challenge, implementation, complexity, shifting from the very detailed then to become or to kind of a bit more general and whatnot. We need to adapt with that. Okay. And then of course, number two, consistency across institution. Pro and cons, the general way may result to different interpretation, okay, of the general provisions or general clause, for example. Then we need to, there is a possibility of consistency that you can see that you are not that very constant, slightly different from one to the other in terms of approach and operation. So we need to address that. But maybe we take it, positively, that this may allow flexibility and more supportive in terms of the innovation. So we are looking into that. Yeah, and thus this is approach is considered as principle-based requirement or principle-based Shariah contract requirement. Yeah. So rather than we go into the very detail, that the spirit is that these are the principle, and then work within that particular principle, rather than as of now is very much what we call it stringent in that manner. Yeah. Then of course we need engagement, we need to collaborate. Okay, then it has to be what we call it, everyone must take part into this. Not only the Shariah only, for example, but how different units and departments will be working together, how the different organs need to be working together. I believe that in terms of assessment of Shariah, Maqasid Shariah, for example, you definitely need to engage Shariah committee very heavily on this to come out and to give you some guidance. And definitely it need your, what we call it, board of directors and strategies, chief strategy officer, for example, on moving forward, on how you can incorporate the Maqasid Shariah in your corporate strategy. Okay, strategy and timeline. Time is actually not, is already, I have only 5 minutes to go. So this is interesting, and this is what expected, that the DP or Bank Negara will be establishing Shariah Contract Task Force, which involve everyone. Yeah. Then, from the industry and whatnot in terms of doing this exercise. So we are not talking about only Bank Negara doing it, but rather than, I believe that there will be representative from, Takaful operators as well as the banks. Yeah. And different stakeholders will be there as well. So the task force will be what we call it established, and feedback from the task force who are representing the industry is very, very important, because one of the objectives of this DP is that to ensure that whatever that we crafted and drafted is aligned to the industry needs. Yeah. So we are hoping that we will be having a better and more seamless in terms of the framework or policy document. Number two is that in terms of the strategy for adoption and strategy for the review, it will be phased. Yeah, we are not talking about everything will be done at one state, but rather than it will be phased. You may notice the plan is that for 2025, we'll be taking 3, and then moving forward, then a different 3 and move, So the target is that, it will be phased, and then the review will be done on this 3 contract, for example, at the end, it will be, we will be able to complete all the 14 policy documents. Yeah. We do not know. During the exercise, maybe there will be another kind of document, exposure draft and whatnot. Okay, but we are looking at coming out with not only the Shariah contract framework itself, but the implementation guide is also important. Yeah, so this is quite massive exercise. Remember, when we come up with all the 14 policy documents, it was also quite massive. Yeah. But then it will be another massive exercise that we are doing, but I believe this is for the goodness of all of us. Okay. Approach again here on pilot, the innovative approach. So Bank Negara is looking at encourage the technology. Okay, so technology is definitely will be one of the what we call it ingredient in terms of moving forward. Don't forget about Hajah Darurah, yeah, because everyone understand even Hajah and Darurah at the end of the day, why we want to do this? Again, the maqasid, because we are guided by the maqasid of Sharia. Yeah. So that will be what we call it engagement with the Sharia contract, what we call it task force just now. And then to ensure that the feedback that we get in during the review is relevant to the industry. So we would be, I believe that Bank Negara is expecting our good contribution and commitment from the industry side. And it needs to be highlighted to Bank Negara what are our concerns, for example, to ensure that the output or framework that we are coming out later on will be something that is very relevant, rather than confining, rather than too rigid, for example. Okay, too flexible is also may not be good. What is the best mode or the design of that particular framework? Yeah. Okay. Then SCTF will not replace formal consultation process, but complement them. So the purpose is this. There will be also engagement, I believe, from by Bank Negara with the security, with the Sharia committees, board of directors, and so on and so forth. Yeah? In addition of the task force. And the last but not least, in terms of the staggered or phased, what we call it implementation, prioritizing the important Sharia contract with the potential, with the high potential. We have been talking about the musyarakah, and Bank Negara governor have been what we call it highlighting many times in his speech as regards to the exploring the potential of musyarakah mutarabah, and thus the importance or the priority of looking into mudarabah and musyarakah moving forward for the framework to be adopted. Okay. The challenge is that industry readiness. Are we ready for this? Because again, we need to basically look into our capability, our resources, the expertise that we have. And then you may find some bank or some institution or financial institution may be ready, their resources is sufficient, but the other may not be ready in terms of resources and expertise. So how then it can be done? In fact, when we adopt this framework also, you may find that there could be some challenge on that. Coordination complexity here is that we are talking about IFI, Takaful operator, and Bank Negara and whatnot. Yeah, so Islamic Bank Takaful operator need to be coming here. So of course, the way how we deliberate, I believe that many Sharia committee and Sharia people are here. And then you may, that the way how the bank approach is different than Takaful, for example. How are we going to coordinate this? This is a bit complex, but I believe it can be done. Yeah. So it is suggested, of course, fintech tools is something that we are moving forward. Yeah. And then, of course, resource allocation here, definitely this massive exercise, if I were to say, why I said massive, because we are looking for a long timeline, as well as we are talking about 14 policy documents. So it definitely needs a huge commitment from the regulator, as well as IFI. Yeah. So it definitely involves resources, what we call it, it involves finance. And then it involves, of course, as well, the system. Yeah, so this would be what we call it moving forward, the challenge. But we take it positive that out of this, then the result of that is that we should be better. I mean, that in terms of capacity building throughout, when we want to do this, there will be a lot of engagement. There will be workshops, training sessions and whatnot, so to ensure that we understand what we want to do. Yeah? And then I would be expecting that there will be a lot of conversation on product innovation, serving the community, engaging and between the Islamic finance and economy, for example. Yeah, we are already, because as of now, how are we incorporating Islamic economy? The government of the day talking about economy and Islamic economy. So we need to be more engaged and then more harmonized. Yeah, actually, it is part and parcel of the whole Islamic economy. But how can we do it better, integrate it better? We are looking at the use of the technology and, of course, transparency is something that we need to be observing throughout the section, throughout the exercise. Last but not least, before I end, of course, here we are talking about roadmap, and then to come up with a roadmap is not easy. It definitely need, we need, the first thing when I want to come up with a roadmap, we need to understand what we are. Number two, that we need to understand also how people think about us. This is where the external parties and whatnot. And then our capability and whatnot. And number three is that, number four is that what we want to achieve. I think this is the four key steps and approach that we need to be having for us to have the roadmap. And hopefully this exercise balance our strong focus now on compliance, but we need to ensure that compliance does not hinder the innovation, okay? And of course, by the innovation, and then we need to be looking at what are our social economic impact, okay? Definitely stakeholders engagement is very important. Last but not least, of course, your insights, everyone insights and what we call it proposal and whatnot is very much welcome, very much what we call it required by Bank Negara in this exercise. At least, to get the what we call it preliminary view and then concerns, for example, before the next level or the next exercise stage will be taking place. Yeah, what I mean is that, for example, establishment of the task force committee and whatnot. So this is what we call it the plan. And thank you very much, everyone. Yeah, what I've shared with everyone is basically the main content, the purpose, and then how it looks like. Yeah? By the end of the day, as mentioned to me, this exercise have one purpose, is to align Islamic banking and finance to the Sharia requirement and the maqasid al-Sharia. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Prof, for that thorough presentation on the framework. Alhamdulillah, I think it was a good and very informative session. Now, before I open the floor for questions from our participants, from our viewers, allow me to open the floor to our other panelists. Perhaps any questions from our other panelists. We have Dr. Azmi joining us. Prof. Azman is joining us as well. Any questions? Dr. Zaiti is also here. Any questions from our panelists before I open to read the questions from the Q&A? Anyone? No?
Okay. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.
Okay, as we can understand from the presentation that the main gist of the exercise is to diversify the application of the contract and diversify the product animation, and also for inclusivity of all segments. My question is whether there is a mention about the segmentation of the customer base. Say, for example, the corporate may be not suitable for musyarakah, for instance. The corporate may not allow the to allow the bank to share with their business, for instance, whereby for the corporate as well, of course, the blended financing is not meant for them, right? So, is there any mention of focus on the segmentation of the customer base and the to address the audience? And also another thing is the how to cater for the market readiness for this exercise, the customer themselves. Thank you.
Should I respond, Cik Azudin, now, immediately?
Yes, please do.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Siti. Okay, this DP do not mention specifically in terms of customer base, yeah. So, but I believe when you use the maqasid, yeah, for example, your banks have a maqasid, identify what are the parameter, what are the component of the maqasid that you have, and then number two is that identify what are the area on implementation that that specifically to your institution, then you would be able to what we call it address, you know, all the context of the parameter, all the component of the maqasid too, okay, not through one segment of customer, but rather than, for example, if it is corporate, you may not be able to evaluate in terms of poverty alleviation, for example, or financial inclusion to them, yeah, but rather than it's more on profit, what we call it, wealth creation, for example, right? But I believe that what are the element of other component, for example, wealth distribution to be incorporated for your corporate product, yeah? You may not be able to address all component of maqasid by one segment of the consumer, okay? But what is important is that overall in the bank, let's say one bank A, Maybank, for example, Dr. Zeti, that all the component, I would say that this is the way how I look at it, that you know, different segment of customer, and then at the end, by looking into all different segment of consumer here, customer here, oh, I would be able to achieve all the maqasid. But okay, the component may be vary from one to the other. Dr. Zeti, eh? So because there are certain nature of the consumer that we cannot address, or we cannot mean that, you know, we have 5 component element of maqasid, for example. For corporate, what is applicable to them is only 1 and 2. But for a different segment could be another 2 or another 3, for example. But at the end of the day, the whole institution would be able to address the 5 maqasid. That's the way how I look at it lah. Yeah. So means that is the reason, or that is, I believe, the intention of this what we call it DP, talking about you know, aligning your maqasid to your corporate strategy and business strategy. Yeah. So we are looking at top down, basically. Number one is top down. You are looking at the institution or enterprise level. So we are looking at all FI, for example, will be able to address all the 5 components, for example. Out of 5 components of maqasid, maybe on wealth, for example, you have the proportion of 70%. An-nafs, what we call it, an-nafs, and other than that, for example, you have a different component. But overall institution ada dia punya scoring dia for the overall. I think I hope I answer that.
Yeah. Thank you, Prof.
Okay. Yeah. Market readiness, this is something that what we call it been addressed as well. So of course, while doing this review exercise, it will engage with specific experts and industry players. But throughout the DP also mentioned about transparency and whatnot. And you know, this have to be this is addressed in this DP, that this is one of the challenge that we are going to face. And thus, you know, the strategy is that we are taking it one at a time, basically. We are not doing everything, but rather than we need to be doing it on staggered basis, on phase, so that we are ready. At the same time also, there will be a lot of education and awareness. Yeah. So I would say if it is on consumer side, they will really welcome the output of this exercise actually. The output in terms of what will be because the way how the product will look like, it could be slightly different. I'm not saying that it is totally different, but it could be slightly different. Yeah. So, and this definitely welcome, particularly when we talk about the inclusiveness lah. Yeah, and that underserved and whatnot. We are hoping for that. I think that is basically I'm reading the DP, and I believe that is the spirit. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Zaid.
Thank you, Prof.
Challenging question. It's a PhD level.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tazaiti, for the questions. Now, I will move on to the questions from our participants. We do have quite a few to get through. So let me just ask them, yeah? So, Prof, one questioner asked, could the new framework allow the usage of uqud ghair musamma?
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's basically the spirit, because remember throughout what I did mention, the summary of the gist just now, we're talking about flexibility. Of course, we need to get the guidance and clarity in terms of the 14 Shariah contract, but the purpose of this exercise also, by putting the universal requirement and specificity, means that I believe that, you definitely would be able to have more innovation and allow you to explore uqud ghairu musamma. I think that should be and that reading the DP, I believe that is the spirit, inshallah. Yeah.
Thank you. Next question from Davy John. Can we use the AOF standards in formulating the Sharia contracts?
Okay, IOF contracts, of course, I believe that, in Malaysian context, what is compulsory for us to follow is Bank Negara, yeah? And then IOF is always what we call it voluntary in nature, okay? So, so what is if we would like to consider, you can, but the minimum regulatory requirement is the policy document issued by Bank Negara. Yeah, so you must follow that requirement first. If there is additional, you want to take into consideration of IOF and any other standard, no problem. That minimum requirement must be there, and that minimum requirement is the policy document by Bank Negara and other policies issued by Bank Negara. IOF is always a bonus, but no harm of doing that. And I believe during this exercise also, yeah, very strong possibility, we definitely will be looking at IOF as well. Maybe the area that we can enhance, we can add, we can be better. And then if, for example, throughout the deliberation and our exercise, we can see that IOF component is value add, then we can add that. And that if we add that into the policy, into the framework, then it becomes binding for all of us in Malaysia. Yeah, but other part of the world, okay, you definitely can follow IOF. Yeah, but I'm talking about the Malaysian context. The regulatory framework is, that we must follow Bank Negara. IOF is always additional. Yep.
Right. So, Muhammad Farhan asks, in the Takaful industry, what is the better contract that can go beyond wakalah and mudarabah as to explore a new model that have impact for the society? Appreciate your insight.
Thank you very much, Cik Farhan. It's very good question actually. Now, of course, wakalah and mudarabah is the main Shariah contract for our Takaful. We have been talking about wakaf long time, but we have yet to do that. As mentioned earlier, but I did mention that as well. There are some we call it attempt, and some Takaful operator have started doing it, but not that big scale. So yes, my answer to that, yes, there are other contract that you can use. Why don't, I mean that now we are talking about wakaf, this DP also talking about wakaf, and we can do that now. Other than that, Musyarakat Ta'awuniyah have been also been highlighted. Yeah, and then we had in the industry also we start there are conversation on Musyarakat Ta'awuniyah. So yes, there is no limit for us. Can we have when can we explore a new model? The answer to that is yes. Yeah. Yep.
Thank you, Prof. Next question is, since the exercise is moving toward a general approach based on principles, how can BNM monitor the compliance of exercise itself, especially in terms of innovating new product in banking?
Okay. Okay, my response to that, compliance, I think we know, yeah, the way how industry or regulator look at us means that Islamic finance industry, we are matured already. Yeah. My simple analogy, when your children, when they are small, they need your one-to-one guidance, if I were to say, asking them to do what to do, okay, next what. When they become adult, they don't need for us to be telling them every single thing, but rather than they must be self-conscious, their initiative must be there. So that simple analogy to me, can be applicable to us. So it's very much self-regulation, if I were to say. So the way how you do compliance, you know already what you need to be doing. So basically compliance is still there. Yeah, but but maybe I do not know how it works later on moving forward, but maybe less stringent in terms of reporting. We do not know. That could be the way, right? Because we trust you, just like our children, our child, they grown up already. They may not be telling us every single thing. Number one is that we may not be telling them every single thing they to do. You report to me, basically. I mean that kind of thing lah. So saya rasa macam tu, that will be moving forward. There will be a lot of what we call it expectation on us. We do it as long as you are good. We need to prove to regulator that we are good, in a way, rather than specifically. I think that's I want to mention. So compliance is definitely there. IFSA is still there. Yep. We are not talking about amending IFSA. IFSA specifically mentioned about end-to-end Shariah compliance is still there. So I believe that compliance is there. Innovation can be made. Don't undermine and compromise compliance. Yeah.
Right, excellent. Thank you. Prof, next one is, I'll just run through because we're quite exceeded time already, but okay. Next question is, by having maqasid-based approach in offering Islamic banking product, will it limit Islamic banking offering?
No, that's not the intention at all. The intention is for us to be more robust, to be more innovative, to have more products. Yep.
Okay. Will the policy document, once upon issuance, supersede 14 existing Sharia concept-based PD?
Yes, normally in the normal exercise, it's supposed to be that way. Because if we were to have that 14, means that is no purpose of making it streamlined, making it be more concise, for example, no. I think it's always normal exercise in law that once we have a new one, then it will be supersede. I think it also defeat the purpose, yeah, for having a consolidated, what we call it, PD. Just like IFSA, remember, it supersede Islamic Banking Act, it supersede Takaful Act as well, and BAFIA. So we have one only. Yeah.
Excellent. And last question too, by Muhammad Khairi Saad. To put innovation as the end result of the Sharia contract framework appears to be, to me, a daunting task. This is because the key success factor of innovation doesn't lie on applicability of Sharia contracts per se, but the readiness of the market to move on from its comfort zone. So your guidance and thought, Prof.
Thank you, Khairi. Yeah, it's a very challenging question, actually. I know. And then I would agree with you that is a daunting task. But we have to do it. We have to do it. No one else can do it except us. And this is the way for us to challenge ourselves to do better. I believe if I were to ask Khairi and I were to ask any one of you, would you like to do better? Do you have a better value? I mean, that what we can offer, better value proposition. And this is the job that we need to take. Yeah. Now, the challenge, definitely, people will be, not happy because I'm so used of that so-called comfort zone. But if you want to grow, if you want to become more, what we call it, when you want to become you want to be sustainable, you want to grow, you need to push this. You need to push the boundary to do better. I think this is the spirit. Yeah. Now, industry or market, for example, or I would say public at large. Yeah. And every stakeholders actually, a continuous conversation on what are we doing, what we want to do for them to offer them a better product, a better, environment and whatnot must take place. Yeah. So conversation on this must take place so that they understand what we are doing. I think personally, my thought, my observation here is that we have an issue of, having this good conversation so that public understand what we are doing. And we have been doing this, we have been facing this challenge since, 40 years back, where people don't understand us. Until now, we're still talking about customer do not understand us. We still have the issue of our frontliner is, have made an error, they don't understand the product, explain it differently. And thus execution is in the wrong way. So this is the question or the issue that is a continuous, if I were to say. Of course, my response to that, this issue or this challenge of awareness, education and whatnot will continue until Yaumul Qiyamah. Or else, yeah, Rasulullah do not ask us to teach others and then to always continue learn, iqra, teach, educate, or else kita tak ada kerja. Betul tak? Semua orang dah faham. Jadi kita tak ada kerja, tak ada. It's a continuous journey. So, Khairi and everyone, to me, yes, I do acknowledge this is a daunting task. But if we do not do it, who's going to do it? Let us do it because we understand. Right. So, inshallah, of course, this daunting task cannot be done by you having a soul journey or solely doing alone. It has to be all of us.
A collective effort.
Thank you very
Excellent.
much.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think that summarizes it very well. Thank you for ending in such an inspiring note. One last question, but some did ask, can they get the presentation slides?
Boleh.
Can we share this with them?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can
Okay. So
share to the organizer.
Dear viewers, I will.
Yeah. Can.
Yeah.
No problem.
So dear viewers, we will email you the slides after the webinar, inshallah. So with that, thank you very much, Prof. I guess before I actually close the session, I'll give one minute for Prof for final note. Silakan, Prof.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Azuddin. I do not know how to conclude. I shared. Okay, my thought is that I share the DP, and I try to understand what is the spirit of DP. When your team read through, you may come up with a different kind of perspective and whatnot. I do acknowledge that. Yeah, but I'm trying to come from the perspective of overall DP and then what we would like to achieve, aligning with the what we call it maqasid, and then what we want to achieve basically from Bank Negara documents. Yeah, I think it has to be it has to be read within the Bank Negara so-called documents, communication and whatnot. Yeah. What I'm saying may not be exactly as per your respective bank understanding, but I hope that by this session it trigger or it gives you some thought moving forward. InsyaAllah. Semoga ada manfaat apa yang saya share. Yang salah saya mohon maaf. Ya, saya minta of course semoga Allah ampunkan kesalahan salah saya, tapi dan juga yang salah saya minta maaf. Ya, semoga ada manfaat untuk semua. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Datin, Dr. Rusni Hassan, for that very engaging and enlightening session. As always, as I always say, that one way to measure or to gauge how good a session is by the actual Q&A session that we have. And judging by the question and answers that we have today, alhamdulillah, it's quite a good and fruitful webinar session, alhamdulillah, and a very excellent way to close 2024, at least for the monthly Shariah webinar series. With that, my name is Aizuddin. It's been a pleasure, as always, to be your MC for the monthly Shariah webinar series. I end my duty with wabillahi tawfiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and see you in the next webinar, inshallah. Thank you.
Insya Allah. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Salam.